So then when you say, okay, I'm sick, actually that's misspeaking. Say, no, I'm not sick, just my body is. Because the body is subject to breakdown, right? Because it has form. Form is subject to breakdown. Well, the energy that runs it is not subject to breakdown. So it's always perfectly healthy. And it's beyond death.
Welcome to the Inspired Living with Autoimmunity podcast, the podcast for high achievers who want to stay sharp, focused, and full of energy despite their diagnosis. With your host, National Board Certified Functional Medicine Health Coach, Julie Michelson, where Julie helps you take your power back from autoimmunity. And now here's your host, Julie Michelson.
Welcome back to the Inspired Living with Autoimmunity podcast. I'm your host, Julie Michelson.
Thank you for listening
to Julie
we are
Michelson's once again joined by Udo Erasmus, the founder of billion-dollar supplement line,
Please
Udo's
like,
Choice.
Share, and subscribe wherever you listen
Udo
to podcasts.
is the author of
If you'd like to get a transcript of this and every other episode,
which has sold over
just head on over to
250,000 copies.
inspiredliving.show.
As an acclaimed
click on
author
the link
and
in this
speaker,
episode's description.
Udo has an 8-step
There, you can
process
also find
that takes
everything
into
we discussed in this
consideration
episode,
all of the elements of
including links
nature
and
and
information
human
about our
nature,
guest.
including
You can
physical
even
health,
send in your
mental
questions to be
health,
answered by
presence
Julie
and
in a future
awareness,
episode.
life energy,
That's
and being in harmony
Living
with nature and
show.
humanity. Today's
Until next
conversation
time,
focuses
this is
on
Julie
presence,
Michelson's
awareness,
Inspired Living with
and
Autoimmunity
inspiration,
podcast,
and how we can
helping you
each
take your
connect with
power
the love
back.
within ourselves to heal and thrive. Udo, welcome back to the podcast.
Hi, glad to be on.
I am so glad to have the opportunity to visit with you again. Our last conversation, as I just said before I hit record, I learned a lot, so I know listeners got a ton of value. For those of you listening that missed Udo's last episode, it was episode 137. So I really, really encourage you to learn about healthy fats and why we need them and how we can get them and what we shouldn't be doing with them in episode 137. But we are here today for you to share your wisdom with us about what is inspiration and how do you get to the nature of human nature? That's a really big question.
Yeah.
But for anyone who missed 137, who is Udo Erasmus? Why am I talking to you?
Who is Udo Erasmus? Well, I'm still trying to find out. I'm a self-discovery work in progress.
Aren't we all? I love that.
Yeah, of course. Indeed. So, I guess where it started for me, I was born in Poland when it was part of Germany during the Second World War. I'm 82, so I was born in 1942. My parents were from Latvia and Estonia, and Hitler and Stalin. My father had a farm in Latvia, a German-Swedish background, but he lived in Latvia. And Hitler and Stalin made a non-aggression pact and decided that as part of the non-aggression pact, Latvia would go to the Soviet Union and part of Poland would be given to Germany. But there was nobody from Latvia or Poland at the meeting.
Yeah.
So they just took it.
Yep.
And my father had a farm in Latvia. He loved the Russian people because they're emotionally very rich people. He hated communism because they took everything away from everybody. And communism was not the communal living that they said it was. It was actually a state dictatorship. And they didn't look after their people very well. And of course, the system eventually imploded, as socialist communist systems tend to do. Mm-hmm. Because if you take inspiration away from people, inspiration leads to self-motivation.
Yes.
Right? If you take independence away from people, meaning dependence on what's within you, then people kind of get depressed. And then they just do the minimum and they don't become innovative and they don't take risks. And in the Soviet Union, 20% of the population was alcohol addicted to vodka.
Yeah.
Because that was their spirit, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's why we call them spirits, right?
Uh-huh.
That's the substitute. When you can't find the spirit that you are, then you hope you can get it out of a bottle, which sort of kills some brain cells or puts them to sleep. and then it releases you a little bit to be a little sillier and stupider, or even more violent,
Escape.
whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so he left Latvia. He lost the farm, and we lost the community, and lost the culture, and lost the house, and lost the animals, and lost the fields, and lost the furniture. Like literally, we
All
got
the
out
things.
of there. We lost everything
On foot, right?
Not at that point, but
Okay, not yet.
but basically, yeah, and I'm a little ahead of myself in the story. But ultimately, we lost everything except the clothes we were wearing, the body we were in, and the life in the body. Everything else got stripped, right? So he ended up with a farm in Poland. The Polish farmer who owned the farm became his farmhand. There was a little tension around that, as you can imagine.
Uh-huh.
So my dad said to him, look, we're living in crazy times. Let's run the farm the way the farm should best be run. And when all of this crazy stuff settles out, then we'll sort it out. And they became really good friends because they were actually working together for the common good.
Right.
Right. And it was innovative. And it's like, it was under really crazy circumstances. So then when the war ended, they helped us get out. And we ended up on a horse-drawn hay wagon, my mother with 6 children. My father was off to war. And we were on dirt roads and horse-drawn hay wagons. There were dead horses and people in the ditches. And the communists were chasing us in tanks and trucks. And the Allies, we like to think of them as the good people, they were using us as target practice, shooting at us from planes on the road. So my mother got off the road. It was winter, so she went through the snow-covered fields. But it was safer to be going through the fields than being on the road.
Sure.
But she had 6 kids with her, and she could only handle 2 kids, 1 on each hand. They were all under 6, so she had to leave 4 kids behind. 2 were her own kids. I was one of those kids. So I got left behind. And then they tried to take me to relatives in Berlin, but the relatives in Berlin had already fled out of Berlin. So I ended up in an orphanage. And eventually her sister found out what happened, and she came and found us and reunited us with the family. I don't remember too much other than I never felt safe.
Yeah.
I never knew what I could trust because every day the story changed.
Sure.
And just if I can give some parental advice, if you have kids, don't raise them in a war zone. Right? Because
Good advice.
for kids to thrive,
Right.
a certain amount of physical stability is helpful.
Uncertainty. Sure. Sure.
Yeah, the physical stability gives you certainty.
Yeah.
And then you can play and you can learn, and you don't always have to worry about, oh my God, is this safe? Oh my God, what's going to happen to me? Or, know. And so we ended up in Germany. And in Germany, I was 6 years old when I listened to, that's when my life mission began, 6 years old. I listened to adults argue about really trivial things. And the thought occurred to me, man, there must be a way that people can live in harmony. Because, harmony, if you're in a war zone, harmony might just have super importance to you. Can we be
Essential.
cool? Can we get along?
Yeah,
Can
please.
we be safe? And so thought occurred to me, but man, there must be a way that people can live in harmony. And this cocky little voice of a 6-year-old who doesn't know how complicated everything is says, I'm going to find out how. And that's been my driver all my life. That's why I know how to talk about inspiration, right? And so I was always experimenting with things. I'm a born scientist.
Yes.
Because I was always, and crazy things. I broke a lot of stuff, just trying to figure out how it works and what its nature was. And I was always getting into stuff, and I got spanked a few times for breaking things. I was just doing an innocent experiment.
Sure.
Trying to find out.
I don't know why there's extra parts when I put it back together, but
yeah, that too. Yeah. And it was always easier to break it than to fix it.
sure.
Yeah, there was that part to it.
Yes.
And then when it came to going to school, I went into science because science is about predicting and controlling. And if you're insecure like I was, then the more you learn about how things work, the more you can depend on how they're going to work, because you can predict how they're going to work because you understand how they work.
Yeah.
That's what science is about, right?
Security in that, for sure.
Math, physics, chemistry. That was the beginning. And then it got boring because I was more into the world of nature.
Right.
And this was become very theoretical. And the professors I had didn't tell us about what the applications were. And I wasn't smart enough to figure out there was no internet. So Google knows all. Google was not there knowing all at this point, right?
Yeah.
So I left because I actually decided that living things were more interesting. I mean, you look at this planet, you got to be dead in your head to look around and look at the plants and the animals and the seasonal changes and the flowers and the, and the people, and the fish in the ocean and the waves on it, and you got to look at all of this living stuff. And you got to be dead in your head to say, I'm not interested in that. I was like, to me, it was like nature. Oh my God, that's so incredible.
It's awe-inspiring.
So then I went into biology. Biology means study of life.
Right.
And I wanted to know what life is. Biology means study of life, so I figured that's where I would learn about life. And I pictured we would have a beaker, a glass beaker, that was going to be half filled with something liquid and shining, and we would point at it and say, hey, there's life. That's how I pictured it. I even talked to my lab partner about it. His eyes just glassed over. He totally didn't get one. And what I realize now is you don't learn about life in biology.
Or a lab.
Or the lab. You learn about form and function. So maybe we started with a frog in one of our experiments. The frog was alive. By the time we were done, the frog was dead. We figured out that you can put electricity on a nerve and that'll make the muscle contract even when the animal is dead. But we didn't get a handle on life. Where did the frog life go? So I said to my lab partner, we should study ourselves because we have form and function and life all together in the same place. And we don't have to kill ourselves to get to know it. Now that was precinct.
Sure.
Because I didn't know that would be a route I would take ultimately to try and figure out what is life, right? Then I got into psychology to study soul, because that's what psychology means. And in psychology, we learned about thoughts, beliefs, emotions, not about soul.
Nope.
Then I went into medicine. I wanted to know what health is, because we call it healthcare. So They must know what health is. So first year, I'm only learning about disease. So I went to the dean and I said, I came here to study health. I haven't got to learn anything about health. Do we get it in later years? So what is health? I said, what is health? He says, we don't know. We're working on it. And I can tell you that was not an inspiring moment for me. That was huge disappointment. You should have seen my face.
I can
imagine. You would have seen the face of total disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were told, as a doctor, you should always sound as though you know what's going on, even when you don't.
So it was really liar school.
And that was the end. And that was the end of my medical career, because on the farm where I grew up, we call that lying.
Yeah, me too.
And then I realized, you know what? I'm going to learn more about health in biological sciences, because here you study normal functioning of normal creatures in normal situations. Then I'm going to learn in medicine where you focus on abnormal functioning of abnormal situations of abnormal organisms, like sick people. Right. Or sick animals if you're doing research on animals on disease, right? So and then you realize, okay, well, I'm going to learn more about health in biological science. Nobody calls it health, but you're actually studying health, normal functioning. And I got into biochemistry and genetics. And then I thought, in genetics, you're in the control room, in the nucleus where all the genes are, and then things turn on the genes and you watch the genes make their proteins, and you should be able to get a pretty good understanding. But again, it wasn't about health. They always only looked at the material. Life is an energy. They never looked at the energy. Even the molecules that carry energy, they talked about those, ATP.
Mm-hmm.
But they never looked at the energy that they're carrying. They looked at the molecules that carry the energy, but they didn't look at the energy they're carrying. it was like,
How frustrating for you.
I wasn't clear about that. If I'd have been clear about it, I think I might have stayed in school longer. But it's like there's something missing, and I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it. Wherever I've looked at university, nobody shows you God in theology. I mean, it goes on and on and on, right? All it is talk. It's just talk. It's concepts. It's theory. It's words. It's explanations. They have a value. It's not that they don't have a value.
Sure.
But if you're like me coming out of a war and you want to know what is the truth, big T truth,
right,
that you can actually depend on, you're not going to find it at university. So then I left university and I diddled with psychedelics, and I actually snitched an ampoule of Sandoz LSD.
Oh, gosh.
That was the original stuff from the Swedish company, Sandoz. And I worked in a neurological research lab, and they had samples. So I helped myself because they weren't using it. They were just sitting there. They were sent these samples by Sandoz for free, and they weren't interested in anything to do with them. But they were neurological research, brain function. So Sandoz was basically sending samples to see if they could drum up some business. So I got a free sample, and I took like a very, very small amount, 60 micrograms, like a little more than half of one little ampoule in a sugar cube. That's how we used to you put it in a sugar cube, and then you suck up the sugar cube. And I had an experience that was, I had asked somebody, what is LSD like? Because in arts, I was in science, and the students in arts were experimenting with psychedelics.
Sure.
So I asked him, what is LSD like? And he just looked at me, and very kindly, it was beautiful. He said, if you haven't taken it, I can't explain it to you. And if you have taken it, I don't need to explain it to you. And that was like, after I took this journey, say, what a beautiful description. He didn't even try to explain it, but he really laid it out.
Right.
So what happened is I'm rolling on the floor, laughing my head off, listening to Mozart music and laughing in time to the Mozart music. And the tears are running down my face. And it struck me as incredibly funny that all this studiousness that I had, trying to figure it all out in the world, that what I was looking for was within me the whole time. And I was always looking on the outside, and I wasn't finding it. And so for me, that was a huge door opener. It literally melted my war baby world. And I realized, oh my God, there's 1,000 ways I could live. Now I got to figure out, how do I want to live, right? Because it doesn't tell you how you want to live. It just shows you the possibility. Right. And then I stopped doing that, because eventually they get to be pretty hard on your body. Mm-hmm. And so I said, okay, I only get one body. I need to look after it. So I'm not doing any psychedelic experiences. I did a few, yeah. And I'm not doing any for 2 years. Just to give my body a chance to basically recover, right? Mm-hmm. And I wasn't like really sick, but I could feel it was like, it's hard on your nervous system, I think.
Sure.
So what do I do in the meantime? So then I started thinking, by this time I'm like 26, 27. And I'm thinking, okay, well, who do I want to be? Now that I know I can be what I want to be, who do I want to be? Where's a model? My parents were not my model. They were very shell-shocked from the wars and all the crazy stuff they went through. So they were not my model. And I came to the conclusion that of what I knew, Socrates might have been a pretty good model. Mm. Because when we read his dialogues, like I loved how he used logic to bring you to the point where logic doesn't work anymore. And then you have to go into experience.
Yes.
So that was one of them. The other one was Jesus. Mm. And kind of like, whatever, there's lots of stories about what the translations were and whether such a guy actually ever existed. But to me, it was like, take it on face value. And I had one specific question. I want to feel what he felt that made him be able to live like he did, talk like he did, and do what he did. You know, as it's in the Bible, right? So I got a red letter edition because I'm coming to the party 2,000 years late, right? Right? So I got a red letter edition because I wanted to focus on what the master was talking about. What was the guy that I think might be a pretty good model? What was he actually talking about? So you know the red letter edition? It's a Bible. Everything Jesus says is in red ink. And everything else in the Bible is in black ink.
Gotcha.
So that was a way to focus on not the commentary of the disciples and not the other people with other experiences like Paul and all those guys.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like, okay, here are the words of the master. Well, the words need to be coming from something. You know, if you're a poet, you have to feel something to write a poem.
Sure.
If you write poems without feeling, they're really boring. And they don't touch anybody, right?
Right.
So there must have been feeling there. Because his life was a form of poetry, you could say, right?
Yes.
So I'm going through the red letter edition, and then I would put little things he said to the test. Like one of the things he said, he said, what you have done to one of the least of these, that you have done to me. So I didn't ask a preacher to interpret it for me. I said, well, what does that mean to me? Well, it sounds like to me that I'm in everyone. Oh, Jesus is saying, I'm in everyone. Oh, interesting. If I'm in everyone, that really changes how, that in a way, that includes me in the picture.
Sure, you too.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not like he's perfect and I'm really screwed up and I'm not in the picture unless whatever the formula is, right?
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to understand it and I wanted to experience what that was. Then he says, kingdom of heaven is within you, right? No, that's not complicated. Kingdom of heaven. God lives in the kingdom of heaven, so God must be in you too. And, Christ is at the right hand of, I don't know how you can be on the right hand or the left hand of infinity. But anyway, so he's there. So Christ must be there too, right? And then Holy Spirit is just an outcome. I'll get to that in a second, right? And so, and then he says, in the things you do in your life, first seek the kingdom. And then he says, everything else will fall into place, more or less. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, right?
Right.
But that's what it says. Okay, so, well, we don't do that. We put it last. We put it last. We kind of we do distractions and blame and, ignoring, denying, and screwing around, until we run out of distractions. And then we kind of put it last. And I did too, right? Because by this time I'm 28, right?
Right.
But here's the thing. Even if you put it last, it still works. But you save yourself a lot of pain if you put it first, right? So I was doing these little experiments, putting what he says to the test, and I had some really magical experiences. Traveling around, hitchhiking. And one year, I just wore a robe, no underwear, no shoes, no pack sack, no money, and I hitchhiked around the province that I lived in.
And people picked you up
It was like every town I went to, it seemed like there was somebody there waiting for me.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And then I would help them do what they did, and that got me room and board, so
Gotcha.
I didn't need any money.
Yeah.
Right. So it was pretty cool. And then this group of Christians came up the coast from California. They called themselves the Jesus People's Army. That should have been a warning to me because army is not a great word in my dictionary.
Well,
because I came out of a war, right? But I missed that cue. So I thought, I have a good imagination. We're going to have the beaker filled with light and it's shining and it's life. Well, I thought here we're going to all get together. We're all on the same path. We're all trying to figure it out. We're all doing experiments. We're all having experiences. And we're going to get together and we're going to all share our experiences. And we're all going to leave the evening enriched. right?
Sounds great.
Yeah, doesn't it? So I went to the coffee house and I sat down on a chair, and this guy immediately swooped in next to me. And that should have been my second cue, and I missed that one too, because I had this idea of what this was going to be like, right?
Right.
So I looked him in the eyes and I said to him, it must be possible to see God and live. Because when we were kids, we were told if you see God, if you look at God, he kills you.
Right.
And I always had a problem with that. It's like, wait a minute. He loves me unconditionally.
Why would he do that?
Yeah, he created me. He keeps me alive. He created this whole incredible place where I live. He loves me unconditionally, keeps me breathing when I sleep, tells me when to go to the bathroom, right? Like runs everything, and I don't get to look at him. It's like, there's something wrong with that picture. And then, so I had a problem with that. That can't be true. But this guy, when I told him that, I looked him in the eyes. It must be possible to see God and live. He jumped out of his chair, and he was jumping around the room with his eyes flying around his head, and screamed at the top of his lungs, "You're from the devil! You're from the Antichrist! Get out!"
Oh my goodness.
Holy smokes. So I got slinking out of there.
Well, I think that was a blessing.
Well, indeed, like the war was a gift, this was also a gift. You'll see why in a second. So I'm standing on the sidewalk. I say, well, I haven't seen God. Maybe I'm not supposed to ask that question. And by the way, we were also told there are certain questions you shouldn't ask. And of course, they never told us what those questions were.
Right.
Because if they'd have told me what the questions were, I would have asked them.
Right.
Right. So here I am. I haven't seen God. So, and I got really desperate and really confused. And with the desperation comes sincerity. And what left was just this incredible feeling of, I really want to know. I really, really want to know. So what I did is I went to a beach outside the city to clear my head, because that's how I'd clear my head when the city got too much for me. So I ended up on this beach, completely deserted. I was the only person there, but somebody had draped some plastic over logs and made a little dwelling. Said, okay, here's my hotel for the weekend, right? Go in there, fall asleep. In the middle of the night, I woke bolt upright from dead asleep, and there was a being made of light. Just there. No labels, no words, just a being made of light. Couldn't tell if it was male or female. Couldn't tell if it was old or young. Didn't have any wings, so I figured it was not an angel. And this being embodied a message, a being made of light embodying a message. And I could put words to that embodiment, which was, I am come not to judge, but to love. I am come not to judge, but to love. All my confusion, desperation evaporated instantly. I have never had a question since then about what was the message of the Master to humanity. I am come not to judge, but to love. And then I started thinking, well, who was this? Because it didn't have a label on its forehead, right?
Right.
or on its sleeve, right? No name. So was this Christ? Was this life? Was this soul? Was this spirit? And I came to the conclusion, they're actually all the same. They're all the same. So the message of the Master to humanity, I am come not to judge but to love, is also the message of life, your life, to your body. Because life, which is a solar energy fraction, the sun shines in all directions, 15 million degrees Celsius, pretty hot. You don't want to get too close and burn your toenails, right? So shines in all directions. Some of that light is filtered through 93 million miles of space, and then through the Earth's atmosphere, and then through green plants. And the fraction of solar energy that remains is stored in bonds between atoms to make molecules. We eat those molecules. In our cells, those bonds get broken, and that solar energy fraction is released, and that's our life. That's our life. And that life energy, that solar fraction, loves the body unconditionally. It weighs nothing, runs everything. It is omnipresent in your body, so everywhere present. It is omnipotent or omnipotent, all-powerful in your body, and omniscient, everywhere present in your body. That's a definition of God, by the way.
I was just going to say
omnipotent,
Yep.
omniscient, right? So
Yep.
there you are. So solar energy is life energy, is God, is Christ. Oh my God, we are really connected. Oh my God, we're really connected, right? And then that energy that weighs nothing and runs everything, its nature is a flow of unconditional, empowering love for your body. And it turns out, when you think about it, because if I say to you, hey, Julie, whose body is that? What do you say?
If I'm not thinking, I say it's mine.
Yeah, that's and most people aren't thinking, and that's what they say, right?
Right.
And that's what I would say. Oh, well, this is my body. But you know what?
It's like a rental space.
It's actually true. It's actually true. It is your body. But what you're saying is you're not the body.
Right.
You're saying you're the owner of the body. This is my body. I'm the owner of the body. I'm the owner of this body. Well, who am I as owner of this body?
Right.
Then it's like, well, actually, life owns your body.
Right.
That solar energy fraction is the owner of your body. So that solar energy, though you call God, or you call it Christ, or you call it, it's the master in the body, or you call it spirit, or you call it soul, is the owner of your body. So that means your individual essence is that energy. Oh my God, you know what else about that life energy?
What else?
It's perfect health.
Ah.
It never gets sick. It never dies. You can't kill something that has no form. Has no form. So there you are. So then when you say, okay, I'm sick, actually that's misspeaking. Say, no, I'm not sick, just my body is. Because the body is subject to breakdown, right? Because it has form. Form is subject to breakdown. Well, the energy that runs it is not subject to breakdown. So it's always perfectly healthy. And it's beyond death.
Right.
Because you can't just, energy, when it separates from the body goes flat, right? And then gets recycled into the water, the air, the minerals that it was made from. And the energy goes wherever energy goes.
Right.
I mean, whether it dissipates or, but it goes somewhere, because you can't just...
Doesn't end. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't unmake something that exists just like that. It just separates from the body, right? And then if you listen to people with near-death experiences, they become light, and then they float around as little light orbs. And, there's all kind of... I don't know what's going on, right? But those reports kind of are in line with, I am not the body, I am the energy, and death is not the end. And by the way, that was also the message of the master. Every body gets crucified eventually. Every conception is immaculate. Every birth is lowly, because we are born, as Saint Augustine so eloquently said, we are all born between the urine and the excrements. Right? Which is true, right? Because the birth canal is in between those two, right?
Yep.
So that's lowly birth. Doesn't matter if you're a king or an emperor or the master himself, they all came from lowly birth. Not because there were donkeys in the place, but because birth is a lowly experience. Now, that's not negative.
Right.
It's just a fact, right?
Right.
And then eventually the body gets crucified by something. Could be a bullet, it could be old age, could be falling off a chair, it could be deficiency of something, could be infection. But eventually the body gets crucified, and death is not the end. So that story that I came 2,000 years too late to is actually the story of every human being in the present
time. Yeah.
Only you live that story now, and whoever's listening or watching is living that story. And you can notice the parts of that story in your own life. Right? So what does that mean? The masters were teachers of human nature. You don't learn about life in biology, and you can't take a course in human nature where you really get where you really learn human nature, because you can't be an academic on human nature. You have to be living in your space. So when you live in your space, then and the way to do that is you have to spend some time with yourself. Voluntary solitude, right? Quiet place, safe place where where you leave your distractions outside and you bring your focus back into the space your body occupies. What are you going to find there? Well, if you go to the core of it, you're going to end up feeling peace or pure awareness. Feeling peace or pure awareness. Or some people in quantum physics, they call it the field. What is that? No content, a container without dimensions, no inside, no outside dimensions. And in that peace, everything in the universe unfolds. The entire universe and your life unfolds in a container, in an infinite container of peace. When you feel that peace in the core of your being, because that's your access, then you can look around. Oh yeah, the peace is not limited to my body. The peace is everywhere. I'm a center for it, and it goes out to infinity. Everybody is a center of that peace.
I love that.
And that peace goes out to infinity. Everything takes place in peace. Even war takes place in peace. We make decisions about what we put into that peace, and sometimes it's kind of stupid. But from the sanctity of life perspective, right? So within that peace is this flow of unconditional love. And there are people who say, well, actually love is just a condensation of peace. So the field condenses into energy. That energy is the love. And when I feel that, I literally feel cared for. When I don't, then I feel not cared for. Then I'm always looking, what can I do that'll get me taken care of? And we do a lot of damaging, destructive things on this planet in our quest of finding on the outside the love that we can only connect to on the inside, and that is already there and is waiting for us to connect.
Oh, so beautiful.
Yeah,
so
isn't
beautiful.
that?
And yeah. I want to.
I'm almost to inspiration, but go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to throw in, if people are like, why are we talking about this? Yeah. Because so often people go after healing. It's the doing and the doing and the doing. And the healing is in the being. And that is why I was so excited to bring you in again for this conversation. So I'll give the mic back to you. I just had to throw that in there.
in fact, if you look at a lot of disease comes from us with our mind interfering with the flow of the unconditional love that is our perfect health.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And there are people who actually find the places in the brain where some of these diseases begin.
Yes.
It's called, there's a group called the New German
medicine.
Yeah, New German medicine, right?
Yeah.
So they can track diseases to where in the brain the conflict is, where the interference with the unconditional love that is literally flowing through your entire body. But you can block it with your thoughts.
Right.
And you can say, you can be filled with love, and at the same time that you're filled with love by nature, you can be saying, I'm no good.
Yeah.
Why am I screwed up?
Yep.
I don't know. And people tell you that there's something wrong with you, and then you buy it because you're not doing your homework and recognizing, no, I am unconditionally loved. And I am unconditional love.
Yes.
If I do my homework and spend time in stillness, voluntary solitude, bringing my focus inside where that love, where I am that love. How cool is that, right? So that's number 2. Then number 3, the shine of that unconditional love into the world. I call it inspired purpose.
Yes.
It's also positive mind. It's also visionary. It's also contribution, a positive contribution, right? It's also called the Holy Spirit. So now you have the Trinity is all part of your nature, right? And there's your inspiration. And if you know how to get in touch with that unconditional love, you will be inspired. And your purpose will be, because what happened to me, when I go there, and I do that every day, when I go there, I feel so cared for that it's kind of like, oh my God, it's not about me anymore.
Right.
I'm cared for.
Get over yourself.
And if I don't feel cared for, then I know where to go to feel cared for.
Right.
So I have a practice. I know where to go. And when I feel cared for, well, it's not about me anymore. What do I need to do? Where can I help? Where can I help? What needs to be done? How can I make the biggest splash for good that's possible in the time that I have? So it changes the orientation. Before, when I didn't feel cared for, it was all like, what can I do to get me taken care of? And now it's like, okay, I'm good. Where can I help?
Right.
And it just makes my life so simple, because what I can do to help shows up every day. I go for a walk and somebody's turning the map upside down because they're a tourist and they don't know where they're going. I see it. I say, where are you trying to go? Right? It's that simple. That's really simple stuff.
Sometimes it's just a smile for someone you can tell needs a smile.
Or a joke, everybody starts laughing, right?
Yeah.
Anything that raises the energy, that raises the quality of life. Because we're God children, we're children of the universe, and we're supposedly living in peace and love and inspiration.
Right.
24/7. Right? But what happens, why we're not doing that, is because there was a time when we lived like that in our mother's womb. I call it the Buddha tank, because just the word sounds good. If you call it the Christ tank, that's like the enunciation. No, that doesn't work, right?
It's not as sweet.
So you're living in the Buddha tank, right? So your sperm was alive and the egg was alive. And they got together, and the zygote, the fertilized egg, the zygote is alive, and it implants, and then a tank gets built around it. It's called the womb, right? Filled with water, and you're literally on a cord, floating in the water, nothing to do, nowhere to go,
but just be.
Everything taken care of, and pretty safe.
Yeah.
And so where is your focus? Well, the focus had no place to go. So your focus is at rest in its source, inside, in life, in awareness. So you're hanging out and you're literally in a 9-month meditation. If you're a full-term baby, you're in 9 months of continuous meditation. You're a master in that place.
Yeah.
You're in mastery, right? And so that goes on. And it's like, if you think about it, that's got to be the boringest bloody place you could ever be, to spend 9 months doing nothing, because we're so addicted to doing things. So, oh my God,
Sounds amazing.
How could you possibly stand being so bored for 9 months without interruption? No, you're not bored.
No.
You're in light, you're in bliss, you're in peace. Sometimes you see fetus pictures, and there's a little smile on their face.
Yes.
And you're just like hanging out. And the body is being built. Life is building the body. You're not building the body. Life is building it. And life is using your mother to bring you in. Your mother is not making you.
Right.
Right? Life is using your mother. Life is making your mother, and life is using your mother to bring you in. And you belong to life more than you belong to your mother. And your mother helps on the outside, and it's a noble. I just can't call
partnership.
It a profession. Yeah,
it's really a partnership.
It's a noble endeavor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But the most important part of the child is inside it.
Sure.
Right? Because that's how it grows. You can feed it, but you can't grow it.
Right.
Right?
Right.
You can put a blankie on it, but you don't make it grow.
Right.
You can put it in bed and turn out the lights, but you don't make it sleep.
Right.
Right. So
do I know that?
So how? Yeah, right. If been there, done that. Right?
Uh-huh.
So we can help and make it comfortable on the outside, unless we take our kids into the war zone, right? But so we can help on the outside, make it more comfortable.
Yeah.
But life is doing the job, and the life is doing the job for 8 billion people, and life is the leader, is the true leader of humanity. And every human being has access to the same leader in their own space to give them advice about how to live in their space, instead of running to experts who are usually half-baked.
Right.
Right? Why don't you ask life how to live? Because life knows everything about you. And life is the thing that runs the planet. Yeah. Right? Not some guy in Ottawa or some guy in DC or some guy in Buenos Aires or
right.
That's just that's a sham.
So where does one start? Back to this voluntary solitude, right? How does that look for somebody who hasn't had a practice, or maybe isn't feeling inspired or in touch with purpose?
Well, thanks for putting me back on track, because there's one more story I need to tell.
Okay.
So you were in this perfect place in the mother's womb. Mm-hmm. And then one day you got kicked out.
It's true.
And everything changed. Mm-hmm. Right? So in there, you were your focus was present inside, absent outside. You didn't even know there was a mother around you.
Right.
Right? When you were in there, you didn't know there was a world around the mother.
Right.
You didn't have any words. You didn't have to use the bathroom. You didn't have to eat, because it was all provided through the umbilical cord, right?
Yeah.
And you didn't even need to breathe. So you were literally, how still can you get?
Right.
If you don't need to breathe, you can get really still, right? So then you got booted out, and now everything changed. Now you had to cry for your breast milk, and you had to cry for your blankie, and you had to cry for keeping warm, and for touch, and for all the simple basic needs, for liquid, for food, for diaper change, And you had to get to know the world, because now you're vulnerable, because you live in a world where things change. Right. And some changes are not beneficial, and some things are. So you have to get to know the world, and you have to, your focus goes from inside present, outside absent, to more and more outside present through your senses, because your senses are attracted to change. Because every time something changes, you got to say, well, is this friend, or is this foe, or is this irrelevant? And you have to do that very quickly, because your survival depends on it. And so we get really good at it, and every day we go out. You hear a sound. Oh, what's that? The door opens. I give a lecture, 3,000 people, right? Yeah. And the side door opens, and somebody comes in late. I lose my entire audience to the door that's moving and a person coming through.
Sure.
Because we're attracted to change so automatically.
Yeah.
Right? So older you get, more you spend your focus outside and less inside. And with that disconnection from the inner peace, love, and inspiration, with the disconnection from that comes discontent. Something's missing. You lost something. You lost yourself. You lost your connection to yourself. Then you try to find it outside, by who you marry or how much money you make or what kind of job you do or what kind of adventure you have or what kind of power you can get or whatever it is that you're chasing on the outside. There's always the hope that when you're successful, you will feel whole again. Because nobody tells you that you feeling unwhole and you being driven is a discontent that comes from a disconnection of yourself, right?
Yes.
Nobody tells you that. So then you look for it, and I talked to a guy who was a billionaire. He had an airport named after it. And I said to him when he wanted to meet me because he read my book, Fats and Oils, Fats that Heal, Fats that Kill. And in the last chapter, I talk more about this kind of stuff, but it's just like short because it's a book on oils.
Right.
And he said, I was reading between the lines and I said, I wanted to talk to you because there's something there and I want to talk to you about what that is. So I said, well, let me tell you how your life goes. You come up with a scheme, like building an airport, right? And then you spend 20 years busting your butt, getting together all the people and all the material and all the plans and all of those things that you have to do to create an airport. And there's a hope as you're doing that, when you start, when you decide, yeah, I'll take this on, there's always the hope that when I'm successful, I'll feel whole.
Yeah, I'll be happy when. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you're successful, and then you get 3 days where you go, yeah, I did it. And on the fourth day, you're depressed. Yep. He said, I wouldn't call it depressed. I'd call it let down.
Yeah.
Okay, depressed. That's what depression is.
Right.
Yeah. But you're not inspired because you can't be inspired and depressed at the same time.
Right.
So he said, that's exactly it. Yeah. And then what you do is you say, well, I didn't think big enough or I didn't think in the right direction. So then you come up with another possibility. Yeah. And you say, well, if I'm successful with that, then I'll feel whole again.
Right.
And he looked at me and he said, that's exactly how my life has gone. And so I said, so here's what you're missing. What you're missing is that when you feel let down, when your heart aches, heartache is the result of your disconnection from yourself by your focus going out into the world and moving away from where your wholeness already lives. Right? And you don't know that. And because you don't know that, you're looking for, on the outside, for something you can only find on the inside. You know, if you look at these multi-billionaires, have you noticed they're just as petty as the poor people?
Oh gosh, if not more so.
So the poor people think if I had the rich people's money, I'd be happy. But then you look at the rich people who have that money and they're not happy.
No.
No, why is that? Because happiness is a state of being within you, and you have to bring your focus to it in order to be happy. And it doesn't require you to do anything. Happiness. There's a happiness that's a result of something, and that's a temporary happiness. Right. There is a permanent happiness that is a state of being that you can go to anytime you want if you know how to bring your focus there. So, to go back to your question.
Yes. How do we learn to bring our focus there?
you gotta make friends with heartache. See? And what do we, when do we have heartache? There's hundreds of triggers for heartache. Girlfriend dumps me. I didn't want to get dumped. Heartache. And you always feel it. Uneasy feeling in your chest. Uncomfortable, painful. Sure. Maybe makes you cry, It can be pretty intense. If I made an agreement with somebody and the person breaks the agreement, heartache. Right? If my grandmother died and I was close to her, heartache. If my dad dies, even if I wasn't close to him, heartache. Right? So there are so many triggers for heartache, but the trigger of heartache is not the cause. The cause is your natural, normal, necessary disconnection from yourself to get to know the world for survival, for the temporary survival, right? So if heartache and heartache is a huge gift. It's actually the greatest gift you've been given other than being alive. By the way, there's no autoimmune diseases in either in either peace or love or inspiration. Because autoimmune is a physical, sometimes mental phenomenon. Not your thoughts and your body can't go into the peace. The peace is in your body, but your body is not peace.
Right.
Right? So something unpeaceable is evolving in peace. Right?
Yes.
Anyway, so you make friends with heartache. How do you do that? Well, you don't have to look for heartache. You don't have to go and say, oh, let me go and create some heartache.
There's enough.
No, you get enough. You get enough. It's a normal part of things end. You hopes that something doesn't end, which ends.
Right.
It's heartache. You have an expectation. The expectation gets blown. Heartache. Right?
Yes.
So when you have heartache, remember it's your friend. And sit with it. Be with it. Don't judge it. Just feel it. Might be tears. It won't kill you.
Yes.
So you sit with heartache. And the reason you want to sit with heartache is because that's your door to wholeness. Because heartache, in its essence, is your life calling your focus to come back home inside to where all the goodies are. Right?
Absolutely.
So you sit with it. And so heartache, why is heartache such a gift? Well, number one, it grounds you, makes you simple, gets you out of your head. Because it puts your focus here, not here.
Yep.
Okay, so heartache makes you simple. Well, that's a good thing. Getting out of your head is a good thing. Especially when you're overactive and overwhelmed and anxious and tripping on what ifs and depressed because I'm not good enough.
Let down.
Right? Yeah, let down. Yes, right. So that's the first part. It makes you simple. It grounds you. Second is it's your driving force for everything you do. Heartache is the driving force. Only you don't call it heartache. You call it some other name, based on what triggered it. Restlessness, emptiness, striving, yearning, hoping, wishing, that's all because if you're whole, you don't need to have any wishes, right? So
wait, so you can be whole and not done all at the same time?
No, of course. No, but that's actually a really good question because when you're whole, you're no longer compelled and driven. Then you get to choose how you help.
Yes.
And now you're actually free because you're in choice.
Yeah.
You're not free when you're not whole.
Right.
It's all the idea about freedom. Well, freedom is only possible in wholeness because then you're free to be what you are and you're free to do what comes out of your being, which is always based on peace, love, and inspiration. Holy smokes, that's so cool, right?
It's how you can be free even in a war situation.
I was in jail and I felt free.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think about the bars.
Right.
I thought
here.
I felt the heart.
Yeah.
Because once you know how to go there, it doesn't matter what goes on in the world, you can actually be the light in your own darkness. How cool is that?
Perfect.
Right?
Yeah.
So now this third thing is, it's your call to come home. If it wasn't for heartache calling you home, your focus would get lost in the world and wander around aimlessly and you would never find your way back home. Heartache calls you home. How important is that? That's like thirst for water and hunger for food, right? And full bladder for going to pee, right? And tired for sleeping.
We need
If
signals.
you never got tired, you'd never sleep and you'd burn out.
Right.
I don't know what would happen if you never felt the need to pee.
It would not be good.
It would not be good, for sure.
Would not be good.
So it's the call. The thirst. Sometimes some people call it the thirst of the heart to feel fulfilled. Heartache is the thirst of the heart to feel fulfilled. That's a pretty good description. Okay, what else? It's your starting point for the journey. If you have no starting point, you don't have a journey. You need a starting point, and you need an end point. The starting point is heartache, and the end point is peace. or love or inspiration, right? So it's your starting point for the journey, and you can't, if you won't put your feet in the starting blocks, you're not going to win the race.
Right.
Right? So every journey has to have a starting point. That's the starting point. And then the last one is, if you've gone to the starting point and you're sitting with it and you stay with it and you find that less than a hair's breadth behind your heartache is your wholeness. So you literally, from the heartache, you're almost there.
Right.
You're almost there. And you might go through a little bit of boredom, but boredom is very peaceful. And boredom, you only feel bored and think it's negative because you're addicted to doing so much stuff.
Right.
So no, just get, it's okay not to do anything. In fact, if you want to fix the planet, do less.
Right.
Right? Do less, be more.
Be more.
have a raise the vibration, and then live into the world in a quieter, peaceful, more beautiful way. Right? It's like not complicated. And then last one, if you've taken the journey home, then you're going to become complacent because you feel so good. And then you're going to drift again. And then the heartache will come back to call you home again.
Sure.
So it's the reminder that you need. And one more thing, going out through your senses into the world as a kid for survival is automatic. Coming home has to be deliberate.
I love that.
Your senses will always take you out. You will have to then make a decision that you want to cultivate what's within you and then commit to doing that. And whether that's 5 minutes a day or 10 minutes a day, I like to do an hour and a half. I've gotten better at it. It's hard at first because we're not used to it.
It's foreign.
Just like you had to learn how to walk and you fell on your schnoz a whole bunch of times. Right? But finally you did. You never gave up. And you need to be like that with this as well. Never give up. And if you don't, and I've had times when I do call it self-knowledge practice, stillness practice, and I get up after and said, I never felt anything. Well, what a waste of time. I never felt anything. But you know what? I noticed that my day goes better.
Yes.
Because I did take the time to be quiet.
And it's an exercise. It's a discipline. For that doing mindset, being, sitting is actually an exercise, and it does impact. It's a discipline, and you get better as you do it more. Right. And I'm to the point where I look forward to doing it. I've been doing it now for over 50 years. Yeah. I started when I was 30. I'm 82, so 52 years. I love, my favorite is that you said, it could be 5 minutes a day. Like, no, I don't try to start with Udo's practice. Like, you can if you want to. Well, but I have people, I hear it all the time. Oh, I tried and I can't, then they're not successful. That's the coach in me. Start and build, right? And
the thing is that people talk themselves out of it.
Right.
Just like I say, well, I practiced and I never felt anything. But then I paid attention and actually my day went better.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Wow. So something happened in that time that I didn't notice, right? Basically what happens is you become calmer and you become more settled and you become more solid and you become more anchored in your being and you're a little more peaceful. But sometimes you don't notice.
Right.
But it still shows up in the world.
It does.
And people notice it. I walked across a gym floor one time in a meeting and somebody came running after me and said, "Hey, what is it you have?" I said, "What do you mean?" And I wasn't thinking about it. I wasn't like being very conscious. I was just walking. He said, "What do you mean?" "Well, you have something and I want that." Mm-hmm. "Oh, I know what you, and then I started talking to him about the practice that I do. That's what he was looking for. Yeah. But he saw it. I mean, I didn't even see it in myself and he saw it.
Right. Because people can feel it. It's energy. So people can feel it.
Yeah. Where your focus shows up.
Yes.
If you're in peace, you live into a world that's filled with peace because you see the peace.
Yes.
If you can't see peace in the world, it means peace in you is not doing the looking.
Right.
Right. And then if you see peace, that's very different than if you're angry, because if you're angry, you'll see enemies in the world.
Sure.
And if there aren't any there, you'll create them.
That's why,
right? And then
gratitude practice and any
right,
of these practices.
right,
Yeah.
right. And if you're fearful, you're going to see enemies. You're going to
Sure.
see, you're going to see danger everywhere.
Yeah.
And then you're going to live into the world as though it was dangerous, and you'll be afraid of things that aren't dangerous.
Yeah.
You're creating that with your own mindset, with your own state of being. So if in a state of peace, you see the world for what it is, because you're not elaborating, you're not embellishing, you're not imagining, you're not fantasizing, right? You're feeling it, you're in it. There's no mental content. In peace, because it's a state of being, not an emotional state. In emotional states, they all have mental content. And then if you're in that state of being, wow, it's amazing. Then you see where all the pieces.
Yes.
Oh my God. I mean, oh my God. Somebody said to me this morning, or yesterday, I guess, one question I always ask the people I do my interviews with at the end is say something you're grateful for.
Yes.
So I said to her, do you have 82 years to listen?
Right.
Because honestly, from this perspective,
sure.
Oh my God, the fact that I can talk to you wherever you are,
right?
We can have this conversation
and inspire people.
Oh my God, and then they talk about the technology that makes that possible. Oh my God. And then you got the lighting so that I sort of look lit, right?
Yeah.
And then you have all the stuff on the walls, and whoever made the glass, I don't know who invented glass, but oh my God, I'm the beneficiary of being able to see the trees outside, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not even outside of my house yet for the gratitude, right?
Right.
I'm breathing. I have a bathroom. I have some supplements that I take. It's like
some good oil.
among other things, and enzymes and probiotics, and and then I'm not even out of the house yet. And then I go outside. Oh my God, the grass is making oxygen for me. So with every in breath, I can say thank you, and then with every out breath, I'm making carbon dioxide for the grass.
Yeah.
So then it's like, thank you, you're welcome. Thank you, you're welcome. Right?
Well, and I love you said it, but it is true that where your attention goes, energy flows.
Oh, sure.
And so, why wouldn't we create the practice to have this be the experience of life?
Yeah. Well, the question is, what do you want? What do you want the quality of your life to look like?
Yeah.
If you I'm going to be crude. If you want your quality of life to be shit, then build a tent next to a sewer. Right?
Yeah.
Right? If you want your life to be filled with peace and love, then be present in the space your body occupies, because that's where it is. Right?
I love it. On that note.
And there's more of that in you for you than you're ever going to get from anything outside.
Absolutely.
And that's why the masters, who were really smart, said, Kingdom of heaven is within you. First seek the kingdom and make that a practice. And then everything else will be okay. My day is good. Yeah. My day is good just because I'm good.
Right.
Right? Even if all the politics is crazy, there's nothing crazy in here. There's nothing crazy in here. My head might be crazy. There's nothing crazy in my heart. Right? Yeah. My body might have pain somewhere. There's no pain in my life energy, right?
Yes.
And so I literally get to be the light in my world, the light in my darkness. What if 8 billion people were the light in their space?
Imagine how the world would be.
It would be, and honestly, we're wired for that. So we're now to the point where we're either going to destroy ourselves, or we're going to going to
figure it out,
or we're going to do our homework.
Yeah.
Right?
I love it.
Yes, it's like. Yeah, we live in incredible times. And I get to do this, comes out of my experiences, how I got there, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has experiences. The hunger is already in every human being.
Yes.
So the heartache is already there. Go into the heartache. Just behind it, just a little deeper than that, is your magnificence.
So beautiful. Udo, see, and the beauty is somebody who's 20 can listen to this and get the value of your 82 years of experience.
Yeah.
And just your heart, so we can feel your heart.
Yeah,
I think you already answered this, but I'm going to give you the opportunity to answer it again.
Okay. Yeah.
what is one step listeners can take starting today
Oh,
to
one
improve
step.
their
Yeah.
health, their life, their...
Well, you know what? Most people are not satisfied with one step, so I came up with 4.
Of course you did.
One of them is, first, make friends with your heartache. Second, take time to be as still as possible every day. And I do it in this way. It's kind of like, okay, how still can I become? It's kind of like a game in a way, like little kids can play that, right? You play in hide and seek, and you didn't get well hid. So you have to be really quiet, because if you cough, you're going to be tagged
find you,
out, right?
Yeah.
So how still can I become? And then how deep can I go into that stillness? And then how long can I hang out there? And how lightly and calmly and evenly can I breathe? And when I do that, what shows up in the space my body occupies? So that's a little stillness practice. I just made it up.
I love it.
Yeah. Or you can go to a teacher and he'll show you some techniques. You know, I've used techniques. The techniques I used are called self-knowledge. And the guy who came up with these techniques, or who taught me the techniques, he wrote a book called Hear Yourself. Hear Yourself. How to Find Peace in a Noisy World. His name is Prem Rawat. The book is on Amazon.
I always say it's whatever practice resonates with you that can get you started is the one. So
yeah, and sometimes it's nice to spend time with people who are doing a practice, because then you get a contact hive.
Yeah.
Right? Because it radiates.
Good energy. Sure. Yeah.
The third one was get present to being present. Get present to being present. And the fourth, get present to being present in the space your body occupies. So that was the third one. And maybe every once in a while, when you think you're really stupid and ugly and not good enough, then remind yourself, I am light and I am love in my essential being.
Beautiful. So, and how could that not be healing? I mean,
I'm trying to make it. I'm trying to make it impossible to be destructive.
Right. Thank you. I think you did an amazing job.
Yeah, thank you.
So grateful for your time, Udo. You again have given us so much gold, but beyond that, your light shines through.
Yeah. Well, I hope
that.
I hope I infect 8 billion people.
I do too.
Yes, and I need your help to do that.
Well, I am. I'm grateful for you.
And thank you for doing that.
I thank you. And for everyone listening, remember you can get those transcripts and show notes by visiting inspiredliving.show. I hope you had an amazing time and just enjoyed yourself and learned as much as I did. I'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to Julie Michelson's Inspired Living with Autoimmunity. Did you enjoy this episode? Please like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to get a transcript of this and every other episode, just head on over to inspiredliving.show or click on the link in this episode's description. There, you can also find everything we discussed in this episode, including links and information about our guest. You can even send in your questions to be answered by Julie in a future episode. That's inspiredliving.show. Until next time, this is Julie Michelson's Inspired Living with Autoimmunity podcast, helping you take your power back.